How you doing, everybody? I'm Jim Ladd, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to a conversation with one of the most remarkable musical forces rock and roll has ever produced. They have been together for 34 years, and in that time they have pushed the very definition of rock to its furthest musical boundaries, becoming, and more importantly, sustaining their reputation as the vanguard of the progressive rock genre. They are the musical phenomenon known as Yes. Now, it was a beautiful Sunday afternoon in Southern California when I, along with my producer Johnny V, drove up the coast from Los Angeles to a small hamlet just outside of Santa Barbara. Arriving at the home of bass player and founding member Chris Squire, we were joined by his longtime friend and creative partner, John Anderson. After setting up the tape recorder and microphones on a patio table in Chris's backyard, we settled in amongst the sound of bird songs and the Pacific Ocean to begin our conversation about their new 5-CD box set entitled, In a Word, Yes. I began by asking founding member and lead vocalist John Anderson if he was amazed to look back and realize that Yes has now been together for over 3 decades.
It's mesmerizing at times. It's amazing that we're still committed to making our music. We're sort of still passionate about what we do on many different levels. We just finished this tour of last year with a full orchestra, traveling around Europe and America with a full orchestra, which in these days is pretty unheard of for a rock band, if you like, you know. But the fact is we wanted to do it because it was an experience to go through. And every year something comes along to sort of build up the next experience. And I think that travels to the fans as well. There are so many fans around the world that love what we do, and we just keep going.
Singer, songwriter, and bass player, Chris Squire.
Yeah, I mean, the Yes music has been interesting because I think one of the things that's kept it alive is the fact that we have changed. I mean, it's funny that we wrote a song called Perpetual Change on our third album, and that seemed to keep occurring in that later in the 70s. As you know, we went into experimenting with very long pieces, and some of that was a bit hairy and unstructured, and you know, John was probably leading the charge more on that than I was still the guy who wanted to, let's do Fragile too, what are we doing here, you know. But then, you know, in the 80s, when we were working with Trevor Rabin, we went for maybe a simpler look at our music, but we still looked upon it as our own music. So that era sort of passed, and then we moved into the 90s, and the gears shifted again, and that's what's kind of kept it interesting, that we haven't really had one style that we've stuck to. We've embraced a lot of styles.
Music is very universal. Most everybody talks about this, and it's a natural thing to talk about as musicians. What we do is we embrace the idea of being able to be still making music after such a long period of time and still be so varied in what we're doing. If you listen to the new album, Magnification, the songs on there are perennial, is probably a very good word, because it means that they're timeless. And most of the songs on almost every Yes album is kind of timeless. There are times when obviously we've tried to go for something that, as you said, the record companies really need and the radio stations really need, and we've tried our best and really actually fallen flat quite a few times. We've had a couple of hit records, but that's been part of the game. Are we here to try and just have hit records, or are we here for the experience of making music together? And I think the latter works, that we're here for the musical experience.
Tell us about compiling this 5-CD, 55-track set that you're putting out. I mean, I would imagine even with 55 tracks, the hardest thing is what do we leave off? Am I right?
Well, Steve Howard worked on a basic plan. There's a guy building a house behind us.
Yeah, hold on a second.
No, it's okay.
Let me just ask these guys.
Excuse me.
Hold on a second. Hey, gentlemen. Yo. Hello?
You know what?
Hey, how much longer are you going to be doing that? Sorry to ask. Do you know about how much longer you'll be... Hi. How you doing? Oh, thank you. We're taping something down here, and I know you're being as quiet as possible, but about 5 more minutes?
We're doing a radio show.
Thank you so much.
Hey!
Oh, good. Take it now. Take it on me. That's
okay.
all right.
Don't worry.
Thank you.
That was good.
Okay, Steve Howe, working on the album.
Yeah, it was David McLeese. Rhino was the instigator of the project, I think, and very, very big Yes fan. And Steve Howe submitted an idea that we actually instantly thought, well, that's kind of cool. And we actually had a conference call, because we all live in different parts of the world. We have a conference call every couple of weeks, say hi, you know. And we went through each song and which works, and there were 1 or 2 changes that we made, but we generally understood that this is part of a project, that not only are we releasing this box set this year, there's going to be a live box set next year of all the live work.
Very good. Now, Steve kind of took the lead on the production. How much involvement did you two have, or did you let him do all the heavy lifting?
On this?
Yeah.
Well, all Steve actually really did was just talk about the which songs, because, you know, he wasn't around when we released the box set in like 91 of the Yes Years box set, so, you know, he wanted to get in on the ground floor on this one. And what he did come up with was a bunch of tracks that we recorded with Roy Thomas Baker in 1979 in Paris that never were released, and Steve had kept them, and, you know, I guess he went in the studio and re-cued them. And you know, so he did some work on finding some of these obscure pieces that they've included.
With the unbelievable complexity of especially the earlier stuff, can you take me through the basic process of, let's say you come in with a new song. You've got the song, and you're going to go, John, here, listen to this. And I don't know if you play it on
I'll let
acoustic
you into a little secret. A lot of the complex things that happen in Yes Music are happy accidents.
Really?
Mainly because, like, I might have come up with a bass riff, and Steve or Trevor, or whoever the case may be, one of the keyboard players through the ages, you know, like, would come in and say, oh, I've got this thing. And which he wrote thinking something completely different, and you put them together. Oh, that sounds good. That's a lot of Yes Music was made just like that, you know.
It is. You're right. The idea that you can come up with a simple 3-chord song, and because everybody has a finite musical level, that they will perform it totally like you never expected. So in a way, I can come up with a very simple chord song. The bass will be so different than I thought, because he listens to the way I sing and will complement the voice, the actual notation of what I'm singing. Steve will get into playing something that, as like Chris said, he probably wrote...
Probably something he wrote for something else.
Totally different, and said, oh, that's in the same chord structure, okay. Yeah. And then the keyboard player will play that. Alan just happens to be, I think, the governor of the rhythm of this band, and loves to play so many different kind of levels, you know, from earth music to straightforward rock to jazz to whatever. So he can encompass a lot of energies as a percussionist. And also Alan's a very good songwriter. So all these combinations, I think what we do, we let everybody get on with their business, and at the end of the couple of hours we realize that we actually all met in the right place.
Welcome back to our conversation with Yes, and my guests, John Anderson and Chris Squire.
Feel the calling of the miracle in the presence of the word. Now we hold the right to rearrange how the stories can be heard.
The Calling happens to be a favorite of mine, if we can talk about that for a minute. I happen to like that song a lot. And in here, just to quote a little bit of it, it says, feel the calling of a miracle in the presence of the word. Now we hold the right to rearrange how the stories can be heard. Tell me about the concept of this song, and let's start with the miracle as you see it, and how the various cultures come into play in this song. I like it. It's a multicultural song. You talk about.
I think the lyrics were John. I guess we worked with Trevor.
Yeah. Me and Trevor spent an afternoon working on it, and it was very, very simple. That at that time, it was like the beginning of the 90s. There'd been, as far as I understand it, a lot of world music around all of a sudden for that mid-80s onwards, and a lot of people were getting very interested in culture, different cultures in each, South American music, Aboriginal music from all over the world, Tibetan music, Chinese music, so on. And I was just saying, the calling is out. It's like the miracle of the power of music is amazing. And that was the whole idea behind the song. It was like we were part of the calling, that we're, musicians are making this statement that music is a very powerful thing and that humans should listen, and the earth is listening. Believe me,
Let's talk about music as a spiritual force. The people who called rock and roll the devil's music in the 50s will never understand this, but for people of our generation, music has been a real spiritual, it's our church, really. And I want you guys to talk to me about the power of music to take one along a person's path in looking for that light, and how music can help them do that.
It just does, I think. I mean, I know that whenever, we play, and maybe we've spent, all day hanging around in Chicago airport waiting to change planes, we eventually do get on stage and do the gig. I personally thank God for the healing power of the music when we get halfway through the set and think, oh, well, at least it was worth going through the shit we went through today.
Mm-hmm.
So it definitely has a feel-good power about it.
Mm-hmm. How about you? What do you think?
Well, when you mentioned it, the first song that came into my head was All You Need Is Love. And it's as though we're all children of the 60s in a way, and we were taken on this beautiful sort of cloud of realization through music, and the Beach Boys and Stones, the Beatles, the whole power that was going on, And yes, in a way, wanting to carry that on, to keep it going. So our music, especially the lyrical content that I would try to inject in it, even though, Chris's lyrics are exactly the same, the Onward, one of the songs we do, it's the idea that we are on this path. It's a musical world for us. Our lives are totally involved in music every day, and we're so blessed to be on that path. And then you get on stage and you feel blessed to be up there. It might be corny, but it's damn true. And like Chris said, you get on stage and within a couple of minutes you're on stage and you're feeling this energy. And it's not because you think, well, people are looking at me as I sing. I don't go there. Mm-hmm. Never did, never wanted to. I just get up there and think, I can't believe I do this for a living. Wow. And at the same time, people out there are just enjoying it and feeling good. And if there's one thing in this life, it's music that is a very powerful thing. We're hearing the birds singing. They make great music, seriously great music. And I think it's a natural part of our balance of life to have music around us. Thank God for music.
I'm Jim Ladd, and as we continue now with Chris Squire and John Anderson of Yes, the conversation takes a rather spiritual turn. More specifically, we talked about the collective spiritual awakening that came out of the 1960s.
I think we were given a vision in that period of waking up, and I think we woke up collectively throughout the world. There was a sort of reawakening to understand or try to understand our spiritual quest. And we are slowly breaking down all the barriers. If you watch over the last 5 or 6 years especially, the breaking down of the Christianity is the only way sort of thing. That's not true. They're all the right way. Everything is going the right way. And my theory, rightly or wrongly, is that we are raising our consciousness. Out of 1987, which was interesting, that is 67, 87, very powerful times. 87 was, Chris might laugh a little bit, but it was the harmonic convergence period where people started to wake up to the power of the Earth Mother. Mm-hmm. And I was learning all about Aborigine energy as well as American Native energy, and how much I didn't know, and I still don't know, and I'm still learning. And I think what happened was that what is termed as the second coming is a raising of consciousness into the 21st century, and here we are. We're growing openly, a lot more clearer than we were, say, 50 years ago. There's a lot more information technology, there's a lot more clarity. Hey, so it's interesting that the idea is that what you're saying has happened and is happening, and we feel part of it. You know. There is going to be a time when we grow up into the understanding of why it happened and what made it happen and how we're going to fulfill the agreement.
Do you think there's any way for rock music to do something in this with those walls that are built up, or do you think that's kind of something we're not going to get
Well,
across?
Peter Gabriel worked with Nusrat Ali Khan, which is one of the great spiritual religious singers from Pakistan. I don't know if he was Muslim, but I just know that their music is amazing. And I actually love Arabic music. I have a strong fascination with Yemeni music and Ethiopian music, but I don't know where the religious aspect comes into it. But I think they have their own understanding of music. I don't think they dislike music. I think that they dislike Americanization of the world, these radicals. And so they're quick to condemn the Americanization of the world. And do you know why? Because they ain't got it. That's
You
all
know
it
what?
is.
I think you're right.
Because the first thing that happened in China, when China was the big revolution only 10 years ago, if you can imagine, it was only 10 years ago when they stopped wearing all blue and gray. And I was over there in China, and the first thing people wanted to say was, oh, we just want to be able to go to Hong Kong. Young kids, we just want to be able to go and get our CD players. We just want to be able to become like Western people. And these were young people that I was meeting when I went on this trip. And I realized that a lot of people in the world have been sort of held down, especially when we went to Russia and third world countries. They've been held down by their politics, the government ripping them off. You know, how many governments do you know have been ripping their own people off? It's extraordinary. Whereas America, land of the free and the brave, generally helped people to live the life. And there's a lot of the third world countries want to live that life. So if they can't get it, they'll condemn it. It's a natural event, you know.
And also, John, always, I remember, right back when I first met him, always talked to me about the Israeli part of the world and the conflict there. And he would always say, yeah, no, there's going to be problems there. You know, I just kept thinking, well, maybe they'll clear it up. You know.
We actually wrote a song called Future Times, the islands of Arabia, how they center around this little tiny point, this Israel. And it's got a lot to do with Great Britain and how they mismanaged the whole Palestinian Suez Canal period. You know?
Yeah.
Well, most problems can be traced back to you guys, can't
I
they?
know. Well,
It's
that's
true.
unfortunately we have boats, and we went because we lived on this little island, and we had to go. And when we went places, we caused trouble.
We had boats.
We messed up whatever was going on. Hey, I like your tea. Here's some beads, and we'll just take all the tea. Good.
Yeah. Not to mention the land.
Yeah, and this is
and the women.
You know, and this is our flag. Have you got one? No, we have. And this must be ours now. We'll see you in 6 months. Oh, here's the best part. Oh, you know what? You can come over to our country anytime you like. That was the other part of the deal.
Right.
They'll never afford it. No.
Yeah, right.
Because,
You don't have boats.
yeah, now.
Nowadays, I find that a band comes along, they find a sound, and that's it, man. That's it. That's what that may be good. I may like it, but there's not like you guys or the Stones, for example, who would do country, R&B, blues, rock. You know, they try all these different things, and you guys are constantly experimenting. What has changed that we don't hear that kind of thing anymore?
I think the problem is what you just said, is that especially, it seems to me, I might not be right, but amongst the boy bands, that are, you know, and that particular trend is that there's so little room for anyone to have any personal expression. I mean, to start with, they're being judged by some panel who think the making of the band, like what he should look, the Spanish one and the Jewish one, like they get it all politically correct. Any of the guys who probably have talent, at the end of the day, are not being given any room to express themselves. They're given a playbook.
Mm-hmm.
And this is what we want. And that is something I'm sure will change. I mean, these things go in phases. But
I mean, we've always had kind of commercial nonsense at whatever stage we've been at. I can't remember it ever being more manufactured than it is today in the pop era.
It's
No.
big business.
big business, yeah.
Yeah.
The MTV's big business. It's nothing to do with MTV original. The invention of MTV was to do with music videos, and then it became a corporate company, and now it's a big business, and there's no problem with that. And in fact, I just know that there are a lot of people making great music out there on every kind of level. I'm just fortunate that I search out, it's not the mainstream, but I search out the young musicians doing modern electronic music, modern thematic music, and then the classic people. Laurie Anderson's got a new album out, I heard it. Amazing stuff.
So you still are able to find people out there that...
Yeah, Bella Flake. I mean, there's a lot of great musicians and musical people out there, but the media, shall we call it, hones in on what is going to make the big bucks. And it's become a tighter road in a way. The road, like Chris would say, the road fluctuates. I think maybe in the next 5 years, especially because of MP3 and the realization that, the record companies don't rule. Music rules. And everything's going to wide open a bit. And musicians that felt that they had no chance to get into their world of their idea of their music, they're going to get the door open. The door's going to open slightly, and they're going to jump in. And you're going to get a lot of young kids playing the music that they want to play, really without reservation. And it'll be again free form a little bit, like it was in the early 70s, where you're not quite sure what's going to come next, Mr. Rick Wakeman on keyboards.
Yeah, Dick's back.
Dick's back?
He calls him Dick, and I call him Mr. Wake Up. So,
He's got a lot of energy, that boy, doesn't he?
he's a character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't want to hear any more jokes, though.
Has he got a lot of jokes, does he?
He's a bit of a jokester.
Uh-huh. So is it nice to have him back, or is it's nice to have him back on stage?
We haven't actually got him back. We actually have. I saw him I just went to London and I saw him there. And he seemed in fine form, and he seemed very enthusiastic.
Good. Okay, we'll leave it there.
And we'll find out when we see him in Seattle.
Well, he's a great player.
10 days.
He plays great piano, keyboards. No more jokes. Just play.
Right, because he's a
play the
handful.
keyboards.
Yeah.
He can be a crazy guy.
There's-
Wild and crazy
Well,
guy.
he does, I don't know if you've ever seen one of his solo shows, but they're very much, well, here's my first song, but before I start, have you heard the one about... the whole set's like that.
Yeah. Did you have to talk him out of the rim shot while you guys were? No, Rick, no rim shot. Sorry. I'm going to ask you. This will be the last question. I want you to answer it, and then you to answer it. What one aspect of Yes would you say you're most proud of?
Just the pure fact that we are still together in what has been a changing, music scene over the last 30 years, and we've survived it. And so I guess the survival is something to be proud of.
I was just looking at Chris then thinking, I've known this guy for 34 years and we're still eager to know what we're going to do next. And I think because we started off as great friends in a sort of strange world, and we knew that, hey, whatever happens, we're going to stick together on this, and we were lucky to bring in people at a certain time to work it, that we started to believe in ourselves.
Yeah. Even as recently as when we were making Magnification, we felt that. Yeah, you definitely still felt a very strong belief. Oh, this is good. We're here. We're doing this. This sounds good.
It's a nice thing to see you two sitting here as such good friends, and you can tell that you really are. This is not a game face for the interview. It's a nice thing to see, and it gives me some faith that You know, here's two guys that have been through the wars together and are still sitting here on a Sunday afternoon
Yeah,
getting along as brothers. That's nice.
yeah.
Yeah.
Good for you.
Well, I think we realised at a certain point that there was no point in fighting it anymore.
You're stuck with each other and that's it.
That was last week.
Yeah.